The rain had not stopped for 19 days. It fell endlessly across the northern roads like the sky itself had begun dissolving into darkness. Mud swallowed wagon wheels. Dead trees bent beneath cold winds. And every traveler still walking toward Valenhold moved with the same expression. Exhaustion. Fear. Desperation. Because beyond the city walls, there was almost nowhere left to go anymore. The old kingdoms had gone silent one by one. First the villages disappeared. Then the roads emptied. Then the trade caravans stopped arriving entirely. And now, only Valenhold remained. The last great city in the north. The last place where fires still burned behind windows. The last place where church bells still rang through the night. At least, that was what people whispered. A lone rider moved slowly through the storm beneath a black cloak soaked by rainwater. His horse looked half dead already. Then, shaking, the rider hadn't slept properly in days. But finally, through the rain and fog, he saw them. The walls of Valenhold. Gigantic stone walls disappearing into darkness above the cliffs. Thousands of lanterns glowed behind the rain like distant stars. For the first time in weeks, the rider felt warmth somewhere inside his chest. Civilization. Safety. Life. But as he approached the gates, something felt wrong. The guards atop the walls were watching the darkness beyond the road. Not the travelers. Not the storm. The darkness. And none of them looked relieved to see another survivor arrive. Valenhold never truly slept. Even during storms. Even during famine. Even during fear. The city remained alive beneath endless lantern light. Narrow streets twisted endlessly between towering stone buildings. Rainwater flowed through gutters beside crowded alleyways. Merchants still sold bread beneath dripping wooden roofs. Blacksmiths still worked beside glowing furnaces. And somewhere in the distance, music still echoed from taverns trying desperately to pretend the world remained normal. That illusion mattered. People needed it. Because once a city admits fear openly, collapse begins immediately afterward. The rider crossed through the enormous gates alongside several exhausted refugees. No one spoke much. The guards inspected every traveler carefully now. Faces, hands, clothing, as though searching for something impossible to explain. One guard stopped the rider before entry. "Where did you come from?" The man hesitated, then quietly answered, "East of Greymarsh." The guard's face changed immediately. Not surprise, recognition, fear. Without another word, the gates opened. Inside the city, warm light illuminated the rain-soaked streets beautifully. But despite the lanterns, despite the noise, despite the crowds, Valenhold felt tense. Like a city listening carefully for distant footsteps. The fog arrived every night now. Always after sunset. Always from the western forests. No one knew why. And no one who entered it ever returned. At first, people believed the disappearances were caused by thieves, or wolves, or starving deserters hiding along the roads. But eventually, the numbers became impossible to ignore. Entire caravans vanished. Patrols disappeared silently. Villages stopped answering messenger calls. And now the fog itself had become feared more than bandits or war. Because darkness with intention terrifies people far more than visible danger. From atop Valenhold's western wall, guards watched the fog rolling slowly across the hills each evening. Not natural fog. This moved differently. Slower. Heavier. Almost alive. And beneath torchlight, some guards claimed they occasionally saw shapes moving inside it. Tall shapes. Human shapes. Watching the city from beyond the rain. No one spoke loudly about those stories. But everyone knew them. Because fear spreads fastest through whispers. Old Tomas had rung the western bells for nearly 40 years. Every sunrise. Every sunset. Every storm. People trusted routine. And Tomas represented routine. That was why his disappearance frightened the city so deeply. He vanished shortly before dawn during heavy rain. The western bell tower stood locked from inside when guards arrived. No signs of struggle. No blood. No footprints. Only the bell rope still swaying gently in the darkness. As though someone had rung it moments earlier. The old man was never found. But afterward, people avoided the western tower entirely during the night. Especially after several guards reported hearing the bells ringing softly by themselves after midnight. Even when no one stood inside the tower. The central market remained crowded during daylight. But the conversations had changed. No one discussed harvests anymore. Or politics. Or festivals. Now people traded rumors instead. Stories. Warnings. Fear. A butcher claimed the southern roads were completely empty now. A merchant swore he saw lights moving inside the western fog. One woman whispered that entire towns beyond the river had simply vanished overnight. And everywhere, people repeated the same sentence quietly. The darkness is getting closer. The rider sat silently inside a crowded tavern listening to the voices around him. No one trusted strangers anymore. Still, he noticed something strange. Every time someone mentioned the fog, people lowered their voices immediately afterward, as though afraid something might hear them. The taverns of Valenhold still played music each evening, not because people felt joy, because silence had become unbearable. A young woman played lute music beside the fireplace while exhausted travelers drank watered wine quietly around her. Outside, rain hammered endlessly against the wooden shutters. Inside, the firelight felt soft, almost peaceful. For a brief moment, the rider remembered what normal life once felt like. Then the tavern door opened violently. Cold wind entered immediately, alongside 3 soaked guards. Everyone stopped talking. The guards approached the tavern owner silently. One whispered something quietly into his ear. The man's face lost all color. Then, without explanation, the tavern music stopped. And one by one, people began leaving early without speaking. The rider watched through the rain-covered windows as the city outside suddenly felt far darker than before. 6 guards had left Valenhold at sunrise. Only 1 horse returned. The animal arrived near midnight covered in mud and shaking violently beneath heavy rain. No rider. No saddlebag. Just blood across the leather straps. The city gates closed immediately afterward. For the first time in decades, Valenhold sealed itself completely before midnight. No one allowed in. No one allowed out. People watched from windows as guards barred the gates beneath torchlight and rain. And slowly, the realization spread across the city. Valenhold was no longer protecting the outside world from danger. It was protecting itself from whatever remained beyond the walls. The rider rented a small room above an old inn near the Eastern District. The room smelled of damp wood and candle smoke. Rainwater slid endlessly down the tiny window beside the bed. From there, he could see parts of the city glowing beneath lantern light. Beautiful and strangely sad, because beneath all that warmth, fear lived everywhere now. Late during the night, he woke suddenly to footsteps outside his door. Slow footsteps, dragging slightly across the hallway floorboards. The sound stopped directly outside his room. Silence followed. Then, very softly, someone whispered from the other side of the door, "Don't go outside after the bells." The rider froze completely. By the time he opened the door moments later, the hallway stood empty. Only darkness remained there. And somewhere far away, the western bells began ringing slowly through the rain. The western walls required double guard duty now. No one complained openly, but no one volunteered either. Because during the night watches, the guards kept seeing movement beyond the fog. Not attacks, not armies, just figures, standing motionless along the distant hills, watching Valenhold silently. Sometimes there were 3, sometimes dozens, and every night, they appeared slightly closer. One terrified young guard swore he saw lanterns moving inside the fog beneath the cliffs, as if another city existed out there in the darkness. A dead city. Watching. Waiting. The captain slapped the man for speaking nonsense publicly. But afterward, even he stopped looking directly toward the western hills during patrol. The bells rang again. 3 slow strikes shortly after midnight. The problem was simple. No one had entered the tower. 4 guards stationed near the western district confirmed it. Yet the bells still echoed across Valenhold beneath rain and fog. People woke immediately across the city. Candles appeared behind windows. Doors locked. Children pulled closer beside fireplaces. And for several long minutes, the city listened. Then finally, another sound emerged beyond the walls. Not thunder, not wind. Footsteps. Many footsteps, slowly moving somewhere inside the fog beyond Valenhold. And for the first time in generations, the people of the lost city began fearing the night itself. The fog reached the outer gates before dawn. Not completely. Just enough. Thin grey strands moved slowly beneath the massive wooden entrance like searching fingers. The guards standing watch backed away instinctively. No one wanted to touch it. No one wanted to breathe near it. Because every story from outside the city began with the same thing. The fog arrives first. One old guard quietly ordered torches brought closer to the gate. Flames reflected strangely against the mist, almost as if shapes moved inside it briefly. Watching. Waiting. Then, from somewhere beyond the walls, a voice echoed softly through the rain. A human voice. Weak. Desperate. "Please." The guards froze immediately. "Open the gate." The voice sounded exhausted. Cold. Dying. And somehow, that made it worse. because whatever waited outside no longer sounded monstrous. It sounded human. The captain refused to open the gates, even after the crying started. Especially after the crying started. By sunrise, the voice had disappeared completely, but none of the guards forgot it afterward. And that night, several of them drank themselves unconscious before sleep. The city assigned men called firekeepers to patrol the streets after dark. Their purpose was simple: keep every lantern burning. No matter what, people felt safer beneath light. Even false safety still mattered. The firekeepers moved through Valenhold carrying long wooden poles tipped with flame, relighting lanterns, checking oil, watching the alleys carefully. At first glance, their work seemed ordinary, but after midnight, the streets changed. The rain became quieter, the city emptier, and sometimes the firekeepers noticed things standing far away at the ends of dark streets. Tall figures motionless beneath the fog, gone the moment lantern light touched them directly. One firekeeper disappeared near the Western District 3 nights later. His lantern remained burning alone beside an alleyway, still upright, still warm, but the man himself had vanished completely. After that, fewer people volunteered for night patrols. There was an abandoned house near the western quarter that no one entered anymore. No windows, no lights, no sound. Just a dark stone building standing silently between two narrow streets. The locals avoided even looking at it directly. The rider noticed this immediately. Whenever people passed nearby, they walked faster, lowered their heads, and remained silent until safely beyond it. Eventually, he asked the innkeeper why. The old man hesitated for several seconds before answering. People hear things inside. What kind of things? The innkeeper stared toward the rain-covered window quietly. Voices from rooms that should be empty. That night, the rider passed near the house alone while returning through the Western District. Rainwater dripped from rooftops around him. Fog rolled slowly through the alleyways. And then, he heard it. Soft conversation inside the abandoned building. Multiple voices speaking quietly behind stone walls. He stopped walking immediately. The house had no windows, no candles, no visible entrance light. Yet the voices continued softly inside. The rider left without investigating further. And afterward, he avoided the western quarter entirely after dark. The old clock tower had stopped working months ago. No one repaired it. No one climbed it anymore. Because during the final repair attempt, 2 workers disappeared somewhere inside. The tower stood above Valenhold like a dead giant. Dark, silent, frozen in time. Literally. Its enormous clock hands remained locked at 2:17 forever. Some people believed the mechanism simply broke. Others believed something happened inside the tower during that stormy night months earlier. Something no one discussed openly. Children now dared each other to stand beneath the tower after sunset. Few actually did, because occasionally, despite the broken machinery, the clock bell still rang once during the middle of the night. Always exactly at 2:17. A stranger arrived shortly before dawn, alone, covered in mud, barely able to walk. The guards nearly refused him entry after seeing where he came from. The eastern roads. No one traveled those roads anymore. Not willingly. The man looked starved, terrified, broken. He spoke little at first, only asked repeatedly for warmth and water. But eventually, inside a crowded tavern near the market, he told his story. His town disappeared beneath the fog within 3 nights. Not destroyed, not burned, just gone. The people vanished first, then the animals, then even the sounds disappeared. He claimed the fog moved through streets like living smoke, searching houses, listening at doors. And during the final night, he saw figures walking silently between buildings carrying lanterns that gave no light. By the time he finished speaking, the tavern had become completely silent. Then one old woman quietly whispered, "It's getting closer." Valenhold's streets began emptying earlier each evening now. Merchants closed shops before sunset. Taverns locked doors sooner. Even the market noise faded quickly once darkness approached. The city no longer trusted the night. Rainwater echoed through alleyways that once carried music and conversation. Lanterns still burned, but now they illuminated emptiness instead of life. One evening, the rider walked through the central district shortly after the midnight bells. No footsteps followed him. No voices emerged from nearby taverns. Nothing. Only rain. Only fog. Only the distant sound of bells somewhere across the sleeping city. And then, he noticed someone standing motionless beneath a lantern farther down the street. Tall, wearing dark robes, watching him silently. The rider stopped immediately. The figure did not move. Neither did the rain around it somehow. Then suddenly, the lantern above the figure extinguished itself. And when darkness swallowed the street entirely, the figure disappeared. A woman near the southern district sold candles every evening beside the cathedral steps. People bought more candles now than food. Because light had become emotional survival. The woman claimed she once owned a successful cloth business before the roads collapsed. Now she sold candles to frighten citizens preparing for long nights indoors. She spoke calmly, too calmly, as though fear itself no longer affected her. One evening, the rider asked why she remained so calm while the city slowly unraveled. The woman smiled faintly, then quietly answered, "Because the darkness doesn't scare me anymore." That sentence stayed inside his mind long afterward, especially after he noticed something strange. Every candle she sold burned with blue flames instead of orange. People had started forgetting sunlight. Children born during the storms had barely seen clear skies at all. Rain had become permanent now. Endless. Cold. Heavy. It flowed through Valenhold continuously like the city itself was drowning slowly beneath the heavens. The stone streets remained permanently wet. The buildings smelled of damp wood and smoke. And every room inside the city felt colder each week. Some priests began calling it divine punishment. Others called it the dying breath of the world. No one truly knew anymore. But one thing had become painfully obvious. The rain changed people, made them quieter, more tired, more afraid, and sometimes during the night, when the storms grew loudest, people claimed they heard whispering hidden beneath the sound of falling water. There were tunnels beneath Valenhold older than the city itself. Most remained sealed for centuries, especially those beneath the cathedral. But after strange noises were reported below the western crypts, a small group of guards descended with torches shortly before dawn. The tunnels smelled ancient, wet, still. Stone corridors stretched endlessly beneath the city foundations. And deep below, they found a room, circular, windowless, filled entirely with melted candles. Hundreds of them, perhaps thousands, some still warm, as though someone had been there recently. At the center of the room stood a single chair facing the darkness. Empty. One guard quietly noticed scratches covering the stone walls nearby. Not random scratches. Words. The same sentence repeated endlessly. "Don't let them inside." The scream echoed across Valenhold shortly after midnight. One scream. Long. Human. Terrified. Then silence. Lanterns lit instantly across nearby streets. Windows opened cautiously. Guards rushed toward the western district beneath heavy rain. They found the street empty. No body. No blood. No struggle. Only a single lantern still burning weakly beside the fog-covered alleyway. And on the wet stone beside it, fresh footprints. Bare human footprints leading directly into the mist. But non-returning. After that night, the people of Valenhold stopped asking whether danger was approaching the city. Now they only asked how much time remained before it arrived completely. 3 days after the first scream, something appeared beyond the western walls. At first, the guards thought it was a ruined cart, a broken structure abandoned beside the road. But as dawn slowly illuminated the rain-soaked hills, they realized the object had not been there the day before. It was a door, a single wooden door, standing upright in the middle of an empty field. No house, no fence, no walls. Just a weathered wooden door surrounded by fog. Every guard who saw it felt the same sensation. Discomfort. The door remained motionless all day, watching, waiting, and when night arrived, the fog swallowed it completely. By morning, it had vanished. But the memory remained, and so did the fear. The western bell tower rang again. One strike, then silence. Nothing unusual about that, except the bell itself never moved. 4 guards witnessed it clearly. The enormous bronze bell remained completely still, yet the sound echoed across the city anyway. The noise seemed to come from everywhere at once. Through walls, through rain, through stone. People woke instantly. Children cried. Dogs howled throughout the city. And for the rest of the night, nobody slept comfortably, because the sound had felt wrong. Not heard. Felt. As though something deep beneath Valenhold had answered the bell. Hidden inside the city archives was a room very few people visited anymore. The map room. For centuries, cartographers had carefully recorded every village, road, monastery, bridge, and kingdom throughout the north. But recently, something strange had happened. Places kept disappearing. Not from reality, from the maps. Entire settlements that once existed suddenly appeared blank on newer records. Roads ended in empty parchment. Villages became nameless circles. One elderly archivist spent months comparing maps from different years. The results terrified him. The darkness wasn't only advancing, it was erasing. Slowly, methodically, as though the world itself was forgetting what existed beyond Valenhold. The oldest man in Valenhold lived among books. No one knew his exact age. Some claimed 90. Others claimed much older. He rarely left the library, rarely spoke, rarely slept. The rider visited him after hearing rumors about his knowledge. Inside the library, thousands of candles illuminated endless shelves. Dust drifted through warm golden light. The old man listened patiently as the rider described the fog, the disappearances, the footsteps, the strange door. For several minutes, the librarian remained silent. Then he spoke quietly. "I have read about this before." The rider froze. "Where?" The old man looked toward the rain-covered windows. "In books older than kingdoms." And suddenly, the room felt much colder. That evening, a merchant arrived at the eastern gate shortly before sunset. Terrified, shaking, unable to stop looking over his shoulder. The guards questioned him immediately. The merchant claimed he had spent 2 days traveling alone through the rain. Nothing unusual. Until the second night, he had heard footsteps following him. Slow footsteps. Always behind him. Never closer. Never farther away. Every time he stopped, the footsteps stopped. Every time he continued, they returned. The merchant never saw who followed him. But shortly before reaching Valenhold, he finally gathered enough courage to turn around. There was nobody there. Only rain. Only fog. Only an empty road. Yet the footsteps continued, walking directly toward him. The city's lanterns no longer seemed as bright. At least, that was what people claimed. The oil remained unchanged. The flames burned normally. Yet the streets felt darker each week. Even the firekeepers noticed it. Areas once illuminated clearly now disappeared into shadow. Corners seemed deeper. Alleyways longer. Buildings taller. As though darkness itself had begun occupying space inside the city. People started carrying extra candles, extra lanterns, extra torches. But it never felt sufficient. Because the darkness no longer seemed connected to the absence of light. It felt alive. And growing. The first crow appeared outside the cathedral. Dead. Its body untouched. No wounds. No blood. Only one strange detail. Its eyes were gone. The next day, 3 more appeared. Then 12. Then dozens. People found them across rooftops, market squares, alleyways, church steps. Always the same. Dead. Uninjured. Eyeless. Priests collected the bodies quietly before panic spread. But rumors traveled faster than cleanup crews. Soon everyone knew. Something had changed again. Something new had arrived. And even the birds no longer wished to remain near Valenhold. The dreams began gradually. One person. Then another. Then hundreds. Across the city, people reported dreaming about the same place. A city. Dark. silent, abandoned. Its streets resembled Valenhold. Its towers resembled Valenhold. Its walls resembled Valenhold. Yet something felt terribly wrong. No lanterns burned there. No fires glowed behind windows. No voices echoed through its streets. Only darkness. And waiting. Each dream ended the same way. The dreamer would reach the city gates. The gates would slowly open. And then they would wake up, breathing heavily, heart racing, unable to fall asleep again. The second scream came exactly 1 week after the first. Same hour, same district, same terrible fear. This time, guards arrived faster, much faster. They searched every street, every alley, every rooftop. Nothing. No victim. No attacker. No evidence. Only fog drifting quietly between buildings. And one disturbing discovery. A message scratched into a wooden door. Fresh. Deep. Clearly written by human hands. 3 words. Nothing more. It's inside. No one admitted writing it. No one claimed responsibility. And by sunrise, the entire city knew what it said. The lights appeared shortly after midnight. Hundreds of them. Tiny lantern-like glows scattered across the western hills. The guards counted more every hour. At first they resembled travelers. Then camps. Then entire settlements. But everyone knew that was impossible. Nothing existed beyond those hills anymore. Nothing should have existed. Yet the lights remained, motionless, watching the city from the darkness. And as dawn approached, the fog slowly retreated, revealing something far worse. The lights were not scattered randomly. They formed streets, rows, districts, a city. A vast silent city standing beyond the hills where no city had ever existed. And every light disappeared the moment the sun rose. Nobody slept after the lights appeared. From taverns, from towers, from cathedral rooftops, people watched the western hills through rain and darkness, waiting for sunrise, waiting for answers. When dawn finally arrived, the mysterious city vanished once more. The hills stood empty, silent, covered only by fog. Yet hundreds had seen it. The guards, the merchants, the priests, even children. Too many witnesses for imagination to explain. Inside Valenhold, fear deepened. Because a visible enemy can be fought. But how do you fight a city that only exists at night? The old librarian listened carefully to every report. Then he quietly pulled a forgotten manuscript from a locked shelf. Its pages were older than any kingdom. Its ink almost faded. And buried within the text, he found a sentence that chilled him completely. When the second city appears, the first city has already been chosen. The librarian spent the entire day studying ancient records. Most were damaged, incomplete, lost to centuries of neglect. Yet one detail appeared repeatedly. A name. A city name, written differently in every language, but always meaning the same thing. The Hollow City. The city beyond night. The reflection. No map showed its location. No traveler had ever reached it. yet records describing it existed across hundreds of years. Always during times of collapse. Always before entire regions disappeared. The rider sat quietly while the old man explained. Neither wanted to speak the obvious conclusion aloud. Because if those stories were true, then Valenhold wasn't facing an invasion. It was facing replacement. Children noticed things adults ignored. They always had. A young boy named Edwin lived near the western wall. Every evening he sat by a small window overlooking the distant hills. One rainy night, his mother found him staring outside again. "What are you looking at?" The boy pointed into the darkness. "They're people." His mother felt cold immediately. "What people?" "The ones standing out there." She saw nothing. Only rain. Only fog. Only darkness. But the boy continued watching quietly. Then he whispered something that would spread throughout the city by morning. "They're getting closer every night." A family vanished from the northern district. Not unusual anymore. But this disappearance felt different. Their house remained untouched. Food sat on the table. Candles still burned. A fire still crackled inside the hearth. Beds remained unmade. Clothing remained folded. Nothing stolen. Nothing damaged. Nothing disturbed. The family simply ceased to exist. As though they had stood up in the middle of dinner and walked away together. The guards searched the entire neighborhood. No footprints. No signs of struggle. No explanation. Only one detail. Every mirror inside the house had been shattered. The missing patrolman returned. At least, someone claiming to be him returned. The city had believed him dead for weeks. Yet shortly before dawn, he appeared outside the eastern gate. Cold. Wet. Silent. The guards welcomed him cautiously. But something felt wrong. The man remembered names, faces, places, everything. And yet, he seemed distant somehow, like an actor performing someone else's life. His wife embraced him. He barely reacted. His children cried. He stared at them silently. The physician examined him carefully. No injuries. No illness. No explanation. Then that night, the patrolman stood motionless outside his home for 6 hours, looking west. Toward the fog, the lanterns began failing, not all at once. One street at a time, one district at a time. Entire rows of lamps extinguished themselves despite full oil reserves. Firekeepers relit them repeatedly. The flames lasted minutes, sometimes seconds. Then darkness returned. People grew increasingly frightened, because darkness no longer waited for night. Now it appeared during the evening, during dinner, during conversations, during prayer. Entire streets vanished into blackness unexpectedly, and every time it happened, someone reported hearing footsteps nearby. The cathedral tunnels extended much farther than anyone realized. Ancient maps revealed hidden passages descending beneath the city, far deeper than the known crypts. A group of guards volunteered to investigate. They carried lanterns, ropes, food, and enough courage to descend into the unknown. Hours passed. Then an entire day. No one returned. On the second day, Faint bell sounds emerged from below, deep beneath the cathedral, far underground. The rescue party never found the missing guards. Only abandoned lanterns arranged carefully along a stone corridor, as though someone had placed them there intentionally, leading farther down, into darkness. Letters began appearing beneath doors. No signatures. No names. No explanation. Every letter contained different handwriting, yet the message remained identical. Leave before the gates open. Some received the letters at dawn, others at midnight. Others found them beside their beds after waking. Panic spread quickly. People accused neighbors, friends, priests, guards. Nobody knew who delivered them. Nobody saw anyone doing it. And perhaps most disturbing of all, the paper appeared ancient, as though the letters had been written decades earlier, waiting for this exact moment. The western city was not alone anymore. 3 nights later, another appeared, this one farther north. Smaller, dimmer, but unmistakable. Another city of lights beyond the fog. Another impossible settlement where nothing should exist. Then a third appeared several days later, to the south. Now the people of Valenhold could see them from the walls. 3 silent cities. 3 clusters of lights watching from the darkness. And each night, they seemed closer. The guards stopped discussing what they were. Instead, they began counting how much distance remained between them and Valenhold. Their numbers grew smaller every evening. Just before dawn, the impossible finally happened. One of Valenhold's western gates stood open. Not broken. Not forced. Opened. The guards discovered it during a routine patrol. The enormous iron locking mechanism remained intact. No damage. No signs of tampering. Yet the gate stood wide open toward the fog-covered hills. Rain drifted silently through the entrance. The captain immediately ordered it sealed. But before the gate closed, one young guard noticed something outside. Footprints. Hundreds of footprints. Human footprints. Leading from the fog toward the city. And every single one stopped exactly at the gate. None continued inside, as though whoever made them had reached Valenhold, and then simply disappeared. The discovery of the footprints spread through Valenhold before sunrise. Hundreds of them. Fresh, human, visible in the mud outside the western gate. And yet, none continued into the city. The guards examined the ground repeatedly. Lanterns illuminated every stone, every puddle, every patch of mud. The tracks simply ended, as though an entire crowd had reached the gate, and then ceased to exist. The captain ordered the area sealed immediately. No civilians allowed near it. No discussions. No rumors. But rumors traveled anyway, because fear always moved faster than orders. By evening, people no longer asked what was outside the walls. Now they wondered what might already be inside them. At exactly 2:17 in the morning, the old clock tower rang. One strike, then another, then another. The city froze, because the clock had not worked for months. Everyone knew that. Yet the bell continued. Slow, heavy, ancient, 14 strikes echoed through the rain before silence returned. No one understood the meaning, but the old librarian did. He rushed toward the archives before dawn. There, hidden inside a damaged manuscript, he found a passage he had overlooked before. When the clock speaks beyond its hour, the gates between cities begin to weaken. For the first time in many years, the old man felt genuine terror. A woman appeared in the market square shortly after sunrise. Nobody recognized her. Not unusual in a city full of refugees. But something about her seemed wrong. Her clothing looked old. Not worn. Old. As though it belonged to another century. She wandered slowly through the crowd, observing, listening, saying nothing. Several merchants greeted her. She ignored them. Several guards approached her. She walked away, and by evening, she had vanished completely. The next morning, 3 different citizens claimed they had seen her standing outside their homes during the night, watching silently through the rain. A fire broke out inside the Western Archive wing. The flames spread quickly through ancient shelves. Pages burned. Maps disappeared. Centuries of knowledge turned to smoke. Guards and citizens fought the fire for hours. Eventually they contained it. But one room suffered complete destruction. The oldest room. The one containing records about the Hollow City. The librarian stared at the ashes silently. Someone had entered before the fire began. Someone had removed specific books. Only specific books. The books nobody else knew existed. And suddenly, the old man realized something horrifying. Someone inside Valenhold already knew far more than they admitted. A guard reported seeing someone standing atop the abandoned clock tower. Impossible. The entrance remained locked. The stairs were partially collapsed. No one climbed there anymore. Yet several witnesses confirmed it. A figure stood beside the giant clock face throughout the storm, motionless, watching the city. By the time a patrol reached the tower, the figure had vanished. Inside they found only dust, broken machinery, and something scratched into the stone wall near the top. 4 words. They remember this place. No one knew who they were, and no one wanted to guess. For the first time in months, the rain stopped. The silence felt unnatural, disturbing. People stepped outside cautiously, listening, waiting. The city seemed different without rainfall. Too quiet, too empty. Even the lantern flames appeared uneasy. Then, as darkness fell, a sound emerged from beyond the western walls. Music. Soft, distant, beautiful. A melody drifting through the night air. No one recognized it. Yet hundreds gathered along the walls listening. The tune continued for hours, and every person who heard it later described the same feeling. Homesickness. For a place they had never visited. The lute player from the tavern disappeared. 3 nights passed. No sign of her. Most assumed she had fled the city. Then she returned, walking calmly through the market, smiling, healthy, dry. Despite the storm, people rushed toward her with questions. Where had she been? What happened? She answered every question the same way. I found somewhere quieter. Nothing else. That evening she played music again beside the tavern fireplace. The melody sounded unfamiliar, beautiful, and strangely sad. Several listeners began crying without understanding why. Children saw them first. Dark figures moving across rooftops. Silent. Fast. Watching. At first, adults dismissed the stories, until the guards began reporting the same thing. The figures never attacked, never approached, never spoke. They simply observed the city from above. Always at night. Always during fog. One patrol followed a shadow across several rooftops. Eventually it reached a church tower, then vanished. Not jumped. Not escaped. Vanished. As though it had never existed at all. There was an old district in Valenhold few people visited anymore. Not because it was dangerous. Because people seemed to forget it existed. Entire streets stood abandoned there. Empty houses. Silent courtyards. Broken fountains. The rider decided to explore it alone. The deeper he walked, the stranger the place felt. Several buildings appeared occupied. Smoke rose from chimneys. Curtains moved behind windows. Yet no people appeared. No voices emerged. No doors opened. And for a brief moment, he became convinced he was no longer inside Valenhold at all. The bells rang again, but not from Valenhold. From outside, far beyond the western hills. The sound drifted through the darkness shortly before dawn. Slow, deep, ancient. The guards on the walls listened in horror, because they recognized the rhythm. It matched the bells of Valenhold exactly. The same pattern, the same intervals, the same sequence, as though another city, an identical city, stood somewhere beyond the fog, answering. And when the final bell faded into silence, a light appeared atop the distant western hills. One lantern, then 10, then hundreds. The second city had returned, and this time, it seemed much closer than before. After the bells of the second city echoed through the darkness, people stopped sleeping. Even those who tried found little rest. Because every night now, lights appeared where no lights should exist. Entire rows of distant windows glowed beyond the western hills. Golden, warm, inviting, from atop Valenhold's walls. They looked almost beautiful, like another civilization surviving against impossible odds. But nobody believed that anymore. The light never flickered, never moved, never changed. They simply watched, night after night, growing closer. And one evening, a guard noticed something that chilled him completely. The pattern of lights matched Valenhold itself. Street for street, tower for tower, window for window. The city beyond the fog wasn't random. It was a reflection. The cathedral remained crowded despite the fear. People needed answers. And when answers fail, people seek faith. Father Aldrich climbed the pulpit during a stormy evening. The oldest priest in the city, a man respected by everyone. His voice trembled slightly as he addressed the crowd. I need all of you to listen carefully. The cathedral fell silent. The darkness is not approaching. People exchanged nervous glances. Aldrich continued. It arrived long ago. The room became colder somehow. No one interrupted. No one moved. And then he spoke the sentence that spread through the city before sunrise. We are not waiting for it. It is waiting for us. Valenhold's rulers rarely appeared in public anymore. The council remained hidden behind castle walls, making decisions, issuing orders, trying desperately to maintain control. But strange rumors began spreading among servants. The throne room stood empty most nights. Not because the council left, because no one entered. Several servants reported hearing conversations behind closed doors. Arguments, discussions, voices. Yet whenever the doors opened, the room appeared completely vacant. One servant gathered enough courage to investigate. The next morning, he resigned his position, packed his belongings, and refused to explain why. The only thing he ever said afterward was, "The chairs were occupied." Beneath an abandoned house in the Forgotten District, workers discovered a sealed cellar. Inside stood a massive mirror covered by centuries of dust. No one knew who placed it there. No records mentioned it. No maps showed the room. The mirror itself appeared ordinary. Until sunset. As darkness arrived, its reflection changed. The cellar remained empty. But the mirror showed people standing behind the viewer, watching silently. The workers fled immediately. The authorities sealed the cellar before dawn. Yet by morning, word had already spread throughout Valenhold. Another piece of the city no longer behaved normally. An elderly merchant woke one morning unable to remember his own home. Not unusual. Until it happened again. And again. And again. Soon dozens reported similar experiences. Missing memories. Forgotten streets. Forgotten faces. Forgotten years. The physician blamed stress, fear, exhaustion. But secretly, he knew something else was happening. The forgotten memories all shared one detail. They involved places near the western side of the city, as though part of Valenhold itself was slowly being erased. The oldest gatekeeper in Valenhold had guarded the western entrance for 40 years. Nothing surprised him anymore. At least, that was what he believed. Then one rainy night, someone knocked on the gate. 3 slow knocks. The gatekeeper approached cautiously. No traveler should have been outside after dark. He climbed the observation platform and looked down. A man stood below, alone, holding a lantern. The gatekeeper called out. No answer. Only silence. Then lightning illuminated the road briefly, and the gatekeeper realized something horrifying. The man outside had no face. The lantern dropped from his hand. The gatekeeper never worked another night afterward. Several scouts secretly left Valenhold despite orders. They wanted answers, wanted proof, wanted certainty. 3 riders departed together before dawn. Only one returned. 2 weeks later. Alone. His horse nearly collapsed at the gate. The rider himself looked exhausted beyond recognition. When questioned, he described endless roads, fog, ruins, silence, and eventually, another city. Not the second city. A third one. Abandoned. Empty. frozen in time. A perfect copy of a city that no longer existed. The council immediately classified his report, but rumors escaped anyway, and fear deepened. People began placing candles in windows throughout Valenhold. At first, it was a symbol of hope, a way of saying, "We are still here." Soon nearly every building displayed one. Thousands of tiny flames glowing through the rain. The city looked beautiful, alive, defiant. Then one morning, citizens noticed additional candles. Candles nobody remembered placing, burning in abandoned houses, empty streets, forgotten buildings. The number increased every night, as though unseen residents had begun lighting them. The walls had always protected Valenhold. Massive stone barriers visible for miles. Symbols of safety. Symbols of strength. Yet recently, they felt different. Smaller somehow. Not physically. Psychologically. People no longer trusted them, because the danger outside no longer resembled an army, or invaders, or war. You can stop soldiers with walls. You can stop monsters with walls. But nobody knew how to stop a city, especially one that seemed determined to replace their own. For the first time in living memory, the bells remained silent. No midnight chime. No cathedral bells. No tower bells. Nothing. The absence felt worse than the sound. Valenhold listened through the darkness, waiting, expecting, fearful. Hours passed. Still silence. Then shortly before dawn, a different bell rang. Not from inside the city, from beyond the western hills. Deep, slow, ancient. One strike, then another, then another. The sound continued until sunrise, and every person who heard it woke with the same terrible feeling. The second city was no longer calling to Valenhold. It was welcoming it. The changes began quietly, as they always did. One morning, citizens discovered an unfamiliar street near the Western District. At first nobody questioned it. Cities change. Buildings appear. Roads expand. But by afternoon, people realized something impossible. The street had always been there, or at least, everyone believed it had. Maps showed it. Records mentioned it. Residents even remembered walking through it. Yet none could recall a single specific detail. The rider visited the place himself. A narrow road lined with stone houses. Clean. Silent. Occupied. And somehow wrong. Because every person living there smiled the same way, spoke the same way, and when asked how long they had lived there, they all answered identically. Forever. The second city appeared closer than ever, now visible without climbing the walls. Its towers stood clearly beyond the fog. Its lanterns glowed through the rain. Its streets mirrored Valenhold perfectly. Every church, every tower, every gate, every district. The resemblance was no longer coincidence. It was duplication. The city council gathered in secret. Panic spread among the ruling families, because one terrifying question remained unanswered. Which city was the original? And which city was the copy? For the first time, nobody felt certain. Several citizens vanished during the night. Nothing unusual anymore, until witnesses began reporting sightings afterward. People swore they saw the missing individuals walking inside the second city, visible from the western walls. Tiny figures moving beneath distant lanterns. A mother claimed she saw her missing son. A merchant recognized his brother. A guard recognized a patrol captain who disappeared months earlier. All alive. All walking calmly through the mirrored streets beyond the fog. None looked trapped. None looked afraid. And somehow, that frightened Valenhold more than anything else. The council assembled one final time. The chamber felt colder than usual. Outside, rain hammered endlessly against stained glass windows. Inside, the rulers of Valenhold faced an impossible decision. Fight, flee, or surrender. No one knew what surrender even meant. The old librarian was invited to speak. His voice remained calm, tired, resigned. Then he revealed the truth he had uncovered. The Hollow City did not destroy kingdoms. It replaced them. Slowly, patiently, like a reflection becoming more real than the object casting it. Silence followed. No one argued, because deep down, everyone already knew. The fog reached the walls at sunset. Not beyond them, against them. For the first time, citizens watched from windows as grey mist rolled directly through the streets. Lanterns disappeared inside it. Buildings vanished. Entire districts faded into white silence. No attacks followed. No monsters emerged. Only stillness. The city held its breath, waiting, listening, and somewhere deep inside the fog, bells began ringing softly. Near midnight, the western gate opened by itself. No guards touched it. No mechanism moved. Yet the enormous doors slowly parted. Beyond them stood the second city, closer than ever before, its lanterns glowing warmly, its streets illuminated beautifully, its towers rising through the mist. Hundreds gathered to watch. Then something unexpected happened. People began walking toward it. Not forced, not controlled, choosing. One by one, citizens crossed through the gate, calmly, silently, disappearing into the fog. None returned. By dawn, Valenhold felt different. Not damaged, not destroyed, empty. Shops remained open. Fires still burned. Meals still sat on tables. But thousands had vanished overnight. Entire neighborhoods stood abandoned. The rider walked through silent streets, listening to distant rain, looking into empty homes. Everywhere he found evidence of interrupted lives. Books left open, candles still burning, doors left unlocked. It felt as though the city itself had begun leaving. The old librarian spent his final hours alone among ancient books, searching, reading, remembering. Eventually, he found one last passage hidden within a forgotten manuscript. A sentence written centuries earlier, perhaps millennia. The reflection does not arrive to conquer. It arrives because the first city has already chosen to disappear. The old man closed the book slowly. Outside, the bells continued ringing, and for the first time in months, he smiled sadly. as though understanding something everyone else had missed. Only a handful of people remained in Valenhold, the rider among them. Rain fell softly across empty streets. Thousands of lanterns had already gone dark, one by one, district by district, until a single light remained visible from the western wall, a lonely lantern burning near the cathedral. The rider watched it for hours. Then eventually, even that final light faded. Darkness settled across Valenhold completely. The city had become silent. The city had become still. The city had become a memory. Morning arrived. For the first time in months. The rain had stopped. The fog had disappeared. The sky stood clear above the hills. And where Valenhold once stood, another city remained. Its towers looked familiar. Its streets looked familiar. Its walls looked familiar. People walked peacefully beneath lanterns. Merchants opened shops. Children played in courtyards. Life continued normally, as though nothing had happened. As though Valenhold had never existed at all. Only one traveler passing along the distant road noticed something strange. Above the city gate, an old weathered sign carried a name. Not Valenhold. Not anymore. A different name. A forgotten name. One found only in ancient books. The Hollow City. And beyond its walls, far across the horizon, tiny lights could already be seen glowing through the morning mist. Watching, waiting, for the next city,